My name is Vicky. I'm currently 35 years old. I run an Italian restaurant which started from a small secondhand shop but now, after 10 years, has grown into a popular venue. We've expanded and relocated to a larger, more convenient location, and I currently employ around 20 staff members. My husband Lee is 38 years old, and we have been married for 5 years. He was originally one of our regular customers back when the restaurant was just a small business. At first, I thought he was just a carefree individual who would say anything to get attention. However, as he frequented the restaurant, we became close. Our friendship allowed us to share more personal conversations. At the time, I had a boyfriend, but we broke up due to him cheating on me. It was Lee's cheerful personality that encouraged me when I was feeling down and helped me regain my spirits. I was traumatized by my ex-boyfriend's cheating, but Lee kept reassuring me that he would never cheat on me, and finally, I agreed to date him. Surprisingly, our relationship progressed smoothly. We introduced each other to our families. The decision to get married just seemed like a natural progression of our relationship. Lee began helping out at the restaurant from the time we got engaged, and after our wedding, he quit his job and officially joined the restaurant. Being a graduate of a university economics program, Lee is well versed in business and finance. I, being less knowledgeable in those areas, rely on and trust Lee. Now he holds a position similar to that of a manager and is a great partner I can depend on, both personally and professionally. We considered looking for a new home after we got married, but considering the distance and location of the restaurant, we decided to continue living in the house where I had been living. You often hear about couples who work together having disagreements, but I feel fulfilled both professionally and personally, and I'm very happy. However, my recent concern is my mother-in-law. She has a distorted sense of money. She squanders even the necessary living expenses and often comes to the restaurant to beg for money and food. Vicky, please, I don't even have money to buy food this month. I'm really in trouble. Just lend me $100. I'll definitely pay you back at some point. Mother-in-law, you said the same thing last time. You haven't paid back the money I've lent you so far. I can't lend you any more. Oh, really? Well, I'll just take the leftovers from the restaurant, just for a while. I can't do that either. We have a policy against taking home the leftovers, and moreover, we are controlling to minimize food waste in our restaurant. What is that? How heartless can a daughter-in-law be, even though your mother-in-law is in trouble? We are family. You could give me something secretly. What am I supposed to do from now on? Isn't Lee the owner here? That makes me like the chairwoman, right? You are not the person to talk to. Bring out my son. No, that's not correct. I am the one in charge of the restaurant, and Lee is currently out on other business. You are causing inconvenience to the other customers, so could you please leave for today? I will ask Lee to contact you later. My mother-in-law always behaves like this, and she won't listen to anything I say. Although Lee is in fact an employee and is subordinate to me, my mother-in-law is under the impression that Lee is the owner of the restaurant. Lee's family used to run their own business. However, his parents were irresponsible with their finances and didn't properly manage the company's money. They used the revenue primarily for their salaries and bonuses. His mother used to spend extravagantly on trips and luxury goods, writing off these expenses leading to huge deficits. Lee, who had some concerns about his parents, received a scholarship and went to university with the aim of reviving the family business. However, it was already too late. Just before Lee graduated, his family's business went bankrupt. His parents declared personal bankruptcy and fell into debt, and it seems that Lee had a hard time, including handling the procedures. Afterwards, his parents changed their ways and began to lead a frugal life, and their names were removed from the debtors' list by the time we got married. However, just when we were relieved, Lee's father fell ill as if he had let down his guard and passed away. As a result of his father's death, his mother received an inheritance and insurance money, and she started squandering money again, which leads us to the present situation. Given these circumstances, it had always been Lee who dealt with his mother. However, as her restaurant began to prosper and our financial situation improved, Lee started spending less time at the restaurant, leaving it to me and the employees. There were times when my mother-in-law would pop up unexpectedly on days like today when Lee hadn't gone to work, leaving me wondering what to do. One day, I left my restaurant in the hands of my employees and went to scout the rival store across the street. While eating and observing the surroundings, I spotted Lee outside the store, arm in arm with an unknown woman. I quickly paid my bill, abandoned my meal, and rushed outside. With my heart pounding painfully, I followed them discreetly. This must be some mistake. Even if it really is Lee, there must be a reason. Our relationship is solid, and there's no way he would betray me. However, to my dismay, I watched the two of them enter a motel just off the busy street in front of the station, laughing happily. The shock of reality left me in a daze for a while. Once the shock had subsided, anger began to well up. Instead of confronting Lee, I decided to let him swim while I gathered evidence. I acted as usual towards Lee while hiring a private investigator. Since the investigator I hired was run by a lawyer, they collected proper evidence that could be used in court if necessary. The investigation revealed that Lee had been frequently meeting this woman while neglecting work. Now that I had the evidence, I decided to confront Lee. Lee, are you hiding anything from me? What are you talking about all of a sudden? Of course not. I wanted to believe that too until recently, but then, can you explain this? Saying this, I handed Lee the envelope containing evidence of his affair. Upon seeing the contents, Lee turned pale. When did you get this? I had a private investigator look into it. I can't believe you've been fooling around instead of working. You're quite the paycheck thief. How are you planning to make up for this? Vicky, please calm down. Let's talk about this. It was just a fling, a moment of weakness. I only love you, Vicky, and I'll break up with her. Forgive me. The shop needs me, right? You know I can't stand people who cheat, right? We promised each other never to cheat. There's no convincing me when someone breaks that promise. Following our conversation, Lee and I decided to get a divorce. Since I've been living in this house since before our marriage, Lee will need to move back to his parents' house or find a new one by the end of the month. But even though we've decided to divorce, I can't fire Lee without cause. Even if Lee voluntarily resigns, someone will need to take over his duties, especially the financial aspects, which he was solely responsible for. Moreover, I had already planned to go on a business trip for negotiations the next day, so I had to leave the shop in Lee's hands. I couldn't have predicted the outrageous turns of events that were about to unfold. The negotiation went smoothly without any major hitches, and I checked my phone. There was an SMS waiting for me while I had muted it. Assuming it was from an employee or someone else, I opened the message to find it was from my mother-in-law. I heard from my son you're getting a divorce. I'll be moving in with my son, so you'll need to move out. I'll throw out your belongings, so keep that in mind. As compensation for all these years, hand over the restaurant. I'll take the car too. Stunned by the message, I immediately called my mother-in-law. However, I was greeted with an automatic response stating that my call couldn't be connected due to the customer's request blocking my call. Even when I tried to call via WhatsApp, it would ring for a while before getting disconnected, showing no response. The messages weren't marked as read, so it seemed like she had blocked me on WhatsApp as well. I tried to reach out to the shop too, but couldn't get through as it was lunchtime and busy. Unable to bear staying where I was, I decided in a frantic rush to return to the restaurant. Meanwhile, my mother-in-law, as she had declared she would do, had thrown away all of my belongings in the house, taken my luxury car for a joyride, and was heading towards the restaurant. When my mother-in-law arrived at the restaurant, she barged into the back office, ignoring the protest of the staff. Ma'am, please go back to the customer area. The area is off limits to anyone not employed here. What are you talking about? I'm the parent of the owner here, which basically makes me an owner too. Some of the employees who remembered her promptly took action. Gather the male staff. Call the manager. Phone the store owner. One of the employees called me on my cell phone. Vicky, it's an emergency. The manager's mom is claiming that she's the owner of this place and she's entered the back office. She went there, huh? I'm on my way now. I'll be there soon, so just try to hold her back. At the store, my husband Lee, who had been called by the employees, was in a frenzy, trying to handle my mother-in-law in the back. Mom, you shouldn't have come here. Let's go out the back door and talk. What are you talking about? Lee, this is why your wife takes you for granted. Aren't you getting a divorce? I was asked to help with moving, so I threw away all of your wife's things. Let's live together from today. Now that the troublesome wife is gone, this restaurant is ours. The absurd statements from my mother-in-law caused a stir among the employees gathered in the back. What are you saying, Mom? It's me who's leaving, not Vicky. But Lee, you said you wanted to live with me. You're the owner of this place and the house is yours too, right? The employees, realizing the situation, were furious. When I arrived back in a hurry, I found my mother-in-law and husband being confronted by the employees at the back office entrance. What have you done with our boss? This isn't your restaurant. Apologize and correct it. I decided to explain the truth to my mother-in-law once again. Mother-in-law, as I've explained before, this restaurant was originally opened by my parents. My father passed away before I became an adult, and since then my mother has been running the place. When I got engaged, she had a car accident and became wheelchair-bound due to the after effects. So she couldn't come here. My younger brother and his wife decided to take care of my mother, and I took over the restaurant with the long-standing staff members to protect it. Lee started helping with this place around that time. But Lee is the manager, and you're the owner, right? So this restaurant should belong to my son. The word manager can refer to both a position above the owner, as well as a position below. It depends on the company. You're lying. Lee was involved in managing the store's finances and operations. If he isn't in higher managerial position, then what is he? Lee was managing the finances because I'm not good with money, and he's good at it because he graduated with a degree in economics. So I asked him to handle it, but he's not the owner of this restaurant. He's my subordinate. And I'm not the owner either. I'm just a hired manager. The ownership is still with my mother, and she holds the final decision on the business policy. What? Then I'll settle for just the house and the car. Give them to me. I heard from my son that you're paying the property tax, so there's no excuse. Indeed, I'm paying property taxes on the house, but the house is still under my mother's name and I haven't inherited it. I'm paying property tax as a form of rent. The car was bought before our marriage, so it's my personal property, not a marital asset. Moreover, since we're getting a divorce due to Lee's infidelity, it's me who should be getting the compensation. Lee has no rights other than his share of the marital assets. Huh? Finally seeming to grasp the situation, my mother-in-law looked like a deer in the headlights. Then in a panic, she made a humble apology. I'm sorry, Vicky. Please reconsider the divorce. I have debts. I wanted my son to pay them off, so please spare me the compensation. She confessed that she had been eyeing our restaurant for a while, thinking she could do whatever she wanted with the restaurant and its money, which led to her actions today. Mom, debts? What do you mean? You promised to live within your means and not incur any more debts when you filed for bankruptcy. But Lee, you were using the company's money to meet your mistress and take trips. You said you wanted to sort it out before your wife found out. Mom, why would you say that in front of everyone? A squabble ensued between my mother-in-law and husband, revealing another astonishing truth thanks to my mother-in-law. Lee, what's this about? The two of them kept apologizing, but it was too late. Upon examining the accounts, I noticed some suspicious details. The lodging expense on the receipt for my husband's business trip was exorbitantly high for one person, and when I looked up the name of the hotel, it turned out to be a motel known for short romantic stays. Additionally, there were some receipts from expensive shops that my husband had visited, and another from a mysterious jewelry shop dated towards the end of December. I found irrefutable evidence that my husband had been splurging on his mistress with the shop's money. I owe it all to my mother-in-law, who slipped up and gave everything away. This incident was the final straw leading to Lee's dismissal. In addition to seeking compensation for Lee's infidelity, I also demanded that he return the money he had embezzled from the company. As for my mother-in-law, I demanded compensation for the belongings she disposed of when she'd invaded my house, and the cost of repairs to my car, which she damaged while using it without my permission. I also charged her a nuisance fee for disrupting my business. All these matters were recorded in a notarized document. Thanks to the attorney affiliated with the detective agency handling everything, including the divorce proceedings, I was able to sit back and wait while Lee and my mother-in-law headed towards financial ruin. Following that, my ex-husband Lee and my mother-in-law came to visit me once. We're really struggling to make ends meet because of the compensation payments. Could you consider reducing them? I have no idea. You should consult with the lawyer about that, not me. But we are really struggling. Even to afford food, we can't apply for welfare because we're working, and we have to pay taxes on what we earn. In that case, you should contact a food bank. They can provide you with food that would otherwise be discarded, even though it's still edible. Why do we have to go to such an unknown place? You're being so cold. Weren't we family at one point? What are you talking about? You might have been my mother-in-law, but the only person who became family to me through marriage was Lee. And we're divorced now, so you're a stranger to me. Besides, you did such terrible things to me, and I have no obligation to help you. If there's anything regarding the compensation payments, please communicate through the lawyer from now on. I'll call the police if need be. The experience of being cheated on again and having the company's money squandered has added another trauma to my experiences of love and marriage. The first impression I had when I met my ex-husband, that this guy seems like a player and a spendthrift, turned out to be right on the mark. I'll use these lessons in future human relationships and in job interviews. Reflecting on the fact that I had failed to manage the restaurant's money properly, I consulted with my mother and decided to sign a contract for an accounting service, paying them a fair wage to handle things. Thanks to them checking our homemade accounts and receipts thoroughly, they can point out any mistakes, and even give advice on how much we can claim as business expenses. I should have done this earlier. I'm immensely grateful to my staff who showed their affection for me by being angry at my ex-husband and my mother-in-law for what they did, and I decided to appreciate them more than ever. With the restaurant's succession from my mother in mind, I committed myself to improving my skills as a manager and business owner, to become a person my team can be proud of.
I was on cloud 9, having just married the love of my life. One day, a package arrived from my mother-in-law. I excitedly opened it, only to find a surprise of another kind. It sent my relationship with my husband spiraling into a nightmare. But I'll be damned if I let her win. I refuse to let things go her way. My name is Jessica. I married my husband David just 6 months ago. We're still newlyweds. We were planning on making many happy memories together, but then something unimaginable happened. I had no way of knowing what was about to happen. The trigger came a month after our wedding. I was cleaning the house, now a full-time homemaker, when the doorbell rang. It was a package for me. The sender? My mother-in-law. A package from my mother-in-law? I wonder what it is. I had received no notice of a package being sent, and David hadn't mentioned anything either. Curious, I opened the box. Inside, I found clothes, not exactly what you'd call fashionable, and very well worn. What? What are these? Old clothes? I was flabbergasted by the array of second-hand clothes. Some even had holes in them. There were clothes that must have been fashionable once, but now they were just garish. Just then, the phone rang. It was my mother-in-law. "Oh, Jessica, dear, did you get my gift?" Gift? No, no, no. What part of that is a gift? They're clearly old clothes, and they're hideous. How can anyone possibly see that as a gift? As I was bewildered by this unexpected situation, my mother-in-law started explaining casually. "You see, those clothes are ones I used to wear a long time ago. Found them when I was tidying up my closet." But mother-in-law, some of them have holes in them." "Don't worry, dear. I included some new ones I bought recently. Please try them on." Despite my confusion, my mother-in-law chattered away cheerfully. Was this harassment, or was it really just kindness? Honestly, I couldn't figure out my mother-in-law's true intentions. My husband David came home from work and immediately noticed the mountain of old clothes. "Did Mom just give you a gift? That's nice." It was more like she had given them away than given them. Even so, if it was really out of kindness for my mother-in-law, I didn't want to seem ungrateful, so I didn't mention the holes or the poor taste to David. A month later, another package arrived from my mother-in-law. As expected, it was filled entirely with second-hand clothes. The amount was incomparable to the last time. Plus, the designs were even worse than before. Ugh! Who would wear these? I felt bad for my mother-in-law, but this was nothing short of an unwelcome favor. They were just crowding my closet. I should give them away or sell them at a flea market. As I was thinking this, the phone rang. It was my mother-in-law again. "Oh, Jessica, did the clothes arrive? I gathered some really special pieces this time." My mother-in-law seemed overly cheerful. Even so, it would be problematic if she kept sending them regularly. They're old and not to my taste. "Mother-in-law, I appreciate your sentiment, but I don't usually wear such flashy clothes." When I indirectly refused, she suddenly got angry. Maybe my words had rubbed her the wrong way. "Excuse me, Jessica? What kind of things are you saying about the clothes I went out of my way to send? The correct response is, thank you." "No, I mean I appreciate the thought, but..." "Just wear them, Jessica. Sending you all those clothes will surely save you some money, won't it? The next time you come over, make sure you're wearing the stuff I've given you, okay?" My mother-in-law gave me a one-sided command and then hung up the phone. I sighed. I made her angry. What was more, I never knew that she was the type of person to force her opinions on others so vehemently. That night, I decided to gather up my courage and talk to my husband about it. "David, do you have a minute?" "Wait, you got more presents for my mom?" "Well, that's what I wanted to talk about." David is still under the impression that I'm being sent presents that I would enjoy. When I explained the situation, his eyes widened. "Second-hand clothes?" "Yes, second-hand clothes, and they're not my style at all. I can't possibly wear the clothes your mom sent." I tried to gently refuse over the phone, and she got really upset. "Can you talk to her, David?" David stayed silent for a while. I was troubled because of the stuff his mom had sent. Surely he'd come up with a good solution to smooth things over between me and his mother. "I'll call Mom." David walked out into the balcony and took out his smartphone. I hoped that he would be able to resolve this situation over the phone with his mom. But when he came back from his call, he said something outrageous.
Mom told me she was just trying to do something nice by sending you clothes. You make it sound like it's a nuisance. You should be more grateful.
I was baffled at David's words. Hold on a minute. I told you, right? I can't wear those clothes. They're not my style at all.
Mom said it's clothes she used to wear. Are you making fun of my mom's taste?
That's not what I meant. Besides, some of the clothes even have holes in them. Are you saying I should wear those?
Enough. Mom started crying when I told her you didn't like the clothes. Please don't upset her anymore.
After yelling at me, David stormed off into his own room, slamming the door behind him. Wait, what? Is it my fault? I never thought David would take his mom's side. Even if he didn't exactly take my side, he could at least try to understand my feelings. I felt as if I had been betrayed by my husband. Ultimately, another package from my mother-in-law arrived the following month. When I visited my in-laws' home, and it was discovered that I wasn't wearing the clothes she had sent, "I went to all this trouble to send them to you. Why aren't you wearing them?" she exploded.
Yeah, Mom went out of her way to send them to you.
David joined her side, against me.
No one really cares or notices what you're wearing. More importantly, it's absolutely the worst that you're wasting Mom's kindness like this.
It seemed David was completely on his mother's side. Do you even understand how I feel, being given tasteless old clothes, some even with holes, that are out of style? I felt everything was becoming absurd. All my effort not to spoil my relationship with my mother-in-law and all my explanations to my husband seemed to be in vain. And ignoring my feelings, David started treating me more like a housemaid than ever before.
What is this food? Are you skimping on it? You're lacking awareness as a wife. You're a full-time housewife, so you should do better. There are wrinkles in the laundry. My mother wouldn't make a mistake like this. Do it perfectly.
Is he, her, mini-me? He was becoming incredibly picky. When I bought new clothes, he yelled,
"Even though you wasted Mom's kindness, you're buying new clothes?"
"Oh, I don't know if I can continue this married life any longer." I was pushed to the point where I started to think like that. Then one day, David's company's trip was confirmed.
Make sure you prepare for my company trip starting tomorrow.
I, who was treated almost like a housemaid recently, was naturally frustrated. However, upon thinking, this might be a chance for revenge. My mother-in-law was still sending me tasteless, worn-out clothes. From men's to children's items, even things that I had no idea what they are. Recently, she even started sending me clothes so dirty, I wondered where she picked them up. I dug out the men's clothes from there and stuffed them into David's travel bag. This should do. David's company trip was for 2 nights and 3 days. During this time, I stuffed all the rags that had been sent from my mother-in-law into his suitcase. The next day, as soon as David left for his trip, I began packing my things. When I left the house, I put divorce papers on the table that had already been filled out. At that same time, David, who was on his company trip, was being laughed at by his colleagues.
"Hey, what's with those raggedy clothes, man?"
Did you pick them up from somewhere? Had a fight with your wife, didn't you?
Serves him right. I can picture David panicking. That night, as expected, David called me.
Hey, what's with the contents of this suitcase?
He was clearly furious, even over the phone. I held back laughter as I asked David, "Something wrong with your suitcase?"
What do you mean, something wrong? What's with these raggedy clothes? You got something wrong in your head? Making your husband wear such things?
You think I'm crazy? I said calmly. David, remember what you said, right? Those clothes were sent out of goodwill by your mom. Wasting such goodwill would be pretty strange for a son, wouldn't it? Apparently, David hadn't realized the clothes I packed were from his mother. At my revelation, he choked on his words. Hey, you listening? Those clothes were sent by your mom. Since you were all for blaming me alongside her, you'll be wearing them without complaint, right?
Well, that's...
David was utterly flustered. I told him outright. You understand now, right? Did you finally get a feel for what I was going through? I left the divorce papers at home.
Divorce?
I'll leave the rest to you. And with that, I hung up, leaving things unsaid. David bombarded me with calls and emails, all of which I ignored. Afterwards, I returned to my parents' house. A few days later, my mother-in-law called me.
You listen here. You can't get divorced without my approval. If you don't listen, I'll hire a lawyer and sue you for emotional distress.
I responded, feel free to do so. A week later, my mother-in-law told me to come to a meeting with a lawyer. I headed to the specified coffee shop. There, my mother-in-law, husband, and someone who seemed to be a lawyer were waiting. What's this? I've already decided on the divorce, so there's nothing to talk about now. With a look like she was about to bite me, my mother-in-law yelled.
Don't mess around. After all we've done for you, we won't allow a selfish divorce.
Exactly.
My husband chimed in with her.
I've been made a laughingstock at work because of the clothes you made me wear. Now everyone at work is laughing at me.
A laughingstock? Isn't that directly mocking his own mother's taste in clothes? As I laughed in front of them, my mother-in-law glared with her eyes wide open.
What's so funny? You're such a cheeky wife.
She then turned to the lawyer.
Hey, Mr. Lawyer, she can't possibly request a divorce from her position, can she?
I was told that the wife was the one causing the trouble.
The lawyer questioned, looking puzzled. To this I clearly stated. No, it's the other way around. I'm the one who's been harassed by my mother-in-law and husband, being sent clothes like garbage every single month. Upon hearing this, the lawyer seemed perplexed.
This is completely different from what I was told.
My mother-in-law also seemed flustered. Impatient with their reactions, my husband abruptly stood up.
That's it. I'm divorcing a useless wife like you. I'm going to demand a full emotional distress compensation.
He yelled at me. At the sound of his voice, all the customers turned to look at us. Taking advantage of this, I asked, So, does this mean I have to pay emotional distress compensation?
Wait, who exactly are you talking to?
Who? The person behind me.
Huh?
I kindly clarified that to my puzzled mother-in-law. Just then, a figure from the back of the room appeared before us. David and my mother-in-law were taken aback, their mouths agape with surprise.
It's been a while, Mom. David.
The person who appeared was David's brother, Sam.
What, Sam? Why are you here? Why am I here? Well, to defend Jessica, of course.
That's right. Sam, David's older brother, is a renowned attorney specializing in divorce. Initially, my mother-in-law sought his counsel, but when it became apparent that I was the one wronged, he chose to defend me.
Wait a minute, Sam. Why? I asked you to defend me, and you declined.
Of course I did.
Sam raised his voice.
Because it's clear to me that Jessica isn't at fault. And having heard her side of the story, I learned that you've been using the money I've been sending home every month under the pretense of hard times to torment Jessica, haven't you?
That is...
Indeed, my mother-in-law had been receiving money from Sam every month. Surely some of it was used for living expenses, but she was using the excess to buy shoddy clothes to send to me. All for the purpose of tormenting me. Sam, in a short time, had researched these facts and saved the evidence.
And you, David, the verbal abuse you hurled at Jessica earlier, it's all been recorded.
Sam pulled out a voice recorder and played back the harsh words David had shouted earlier. Of course, this too will serve as substantial evidence in the divorce proceedings.
Hey, Sam, you're kidding, right? Why would you side with Jessica instead of your own family?
In response to David's outburst, Sam answered firmly.
I'm a lawyer. No matter how you look at it, the fault lies with you two. Your lawyer also seems to see that there's no hope of winning. Maybe he should decline to represent you.
At Sam's words, David's lawyer nodded in agreement and quietly left the cafe.
So you two will be the ones paying the alimony, and Mom, I won't be sending any more money. Understand?
Leaving these words behind, Sam left the cafe with me. Thank you, Sam, for helping me even though you're busy. As I bowed my head, Sam gave me a warm smile.
No worries. I just can't stand injustice, family or not.
I'm really grateful for your help this time. Thank you so much. And so, thanks to Sam, I was able to divorce peacefully. Of course, I received a substantial alimony from my mother-in-law and David. After the divorce, I haven't heard from my mother-in-law or David, and have been living a peaceful life. Even though I had to part with Sam, who was so kind to me because I divorced David, I felt a bit sad. But I need to move on quickly and live my own life. The best life that David and my mother-in-law could ever envy. With that promise in my heart, I started my new life.
My name is Eliza. I'm a 40-year-old woman. I have a loving family. My husband, 2 sons, and I get along really well. I met my husband Robert at work, and we got married 10 years ago. We clicked right away because we both loved music and grew up near each other. We'd go to concerts together, share CDs, and quickly became close. It didn't take long for Robert to bring up marriage, and I was overjoyed at the time. From there, everything went smoothly, and we tied the knot without any hitches. Our first son was born a year and a half later, followed by our second son 2 years after that. Despite our busy lives, we're having a great time as a family. Then Robert got transferred for work. We're originally from Atlanta, but moved to Boston for job reasons. We often talked about eventually moving back to Atlanta, if possible. This transfer finally made that dream come true. We saw it as a perfect opportunity to build our dream home in Atlanta. Though it'll take some time for the new house to be completed, the moving date is fast approaching. We considered Robert moving first and living alone temporarily. But with the kids' school schedules and other factors, we decided that it was best for all of us to move together now. So we've decided to temporarily stay at Robert's parents' house. His parents are getting on in years and having a hard time with the stairs in their spacious home. They're considering moving to a smaller, more accessible house. So we figured living with them for a short while wouldn't be a big deal. They welcomed the idea, and neither I nor our sons had any reservations about living with the in-laws. So we'll stay with them until our new home is built and they find a new place to live. Our kids were thrilled to leave our cramped apartment for a larger home with a yard. I was also excited to escape the hustle and bustle of Boston and return to Atlanta, a place I love. However, I had no idea that this choice would bring about some serious challenges. Moving day arrived. All our belongings were packed into the moving truck, leaving our apartment completely empty. We headed to my in-laws' house. "Welcome back! You must have traveled far. Glad you made it." Macy, my kind-hearted mother-in-law, greeted us with a warm smile. I always think Robert takes after his gentle and calm mom, Macy. Darren, my father-in-law, is a man of few words, but he looked genuinely happy to see his grandchildren after so long. "Mom, Dad, we're gonna shake things up for a while. Sorry about that. Thanks for having us." Darren, Macy, we know you have health concerns, so we'll do our best to make things easy. Thank you for welcoming us. After Robert and I said our hellos, my in-laws greeted us warmly in return. I was a little tense about living with my in-laws, but seeing their smiles put me at ease. We carried our bags into the room they had prepared for us and began to unpack right away. As I was organizing stuff in the kids' room, I was startled by a loud thumping sound coming from the room next door. The kids stopped and looked startled too. After that, the sound ceased, and all went quiet. We continued to unpack, but I couldn't shake off this nagging feeling. And my unease proved right that night. Come dinner time, Macy laid out a spread of homemade dishes. Macy is good at cooking, and told the kids, "I went all out for you today." The kids' eyes lit up with joy at their favorite dishes on the table. Then Macy said, "I need to call Sissy down. Darren, could you go get her?" Hearing this, Robert looked surprised and asked, "Wait, Sissy's still living here? I thought she moved out." "Nope, she's still here. She quit her job and has been staying ever since." "Seriously? I thought she was long gone. You should have told me." "Well, it's not like she would leave. Besides, she's not causing any harm." Overhearing Robert and Macy's hushed conversation, I felt a sense of foreboding. I've only met Robert's sister Sissy once during our wedding, but unlike Robert, she struck me as a gloomy person. She's always been socially awkward, and Robert doesn't seem too fond of her. Though they're siblings, Robert said they barely talked until he moved out, and I remember him telling me that. I remember feeling we wouldn't get along when we briefly talked at the wedding. Soon, Darren came down from the upstairs, followed by Sissy, who seemed rather annoyed. With her unkempt hair and stretched-out sweatshirt, Sissy looked like the epitome of antisocial. Robert sighed, and the kids started to feel uneasy with Sissy's strange vibes. The moment Sissy sat at the table, the atmosphere turned awkward, and I couldn't take it anymore. I broke the silence. Sissy, long time no see. We'll be staying here for a while." Upon hearing that, Sissy glared at me and said, "You guys were noisy in the next room." That's when I realized she was the one making the noise by hitting the wall. "I'm sorry for the noise. We'll be more careful." "Look, we've got kids. Some noise is inevitable, right? A little tolerance wouldn't hurt, so the kids can be at ease," Robert told Sissy. Sissy silently started eating, while the kids looked visibly downcast. I was unable to bear it, so I smiled and spoke to my sons. "Grandma's happy to see you two energetic. Don't worry about it. Just be yourselves, kids. Enjoy." Hearing this, the kids finally relaxed and started eating, which put us at ease. However, Sissy's constant displeasure had me on edge. Later, as the kids were getting ready for bed after showering, I told them, "Your aunt, Dad's sister, is in the room next door. Remember not to be too noisy. Remember the time at the apartment when the neighbor got mad for being loud? We've got to be careful. Once our new home is ready, we won't have to worry about this. Hang in there." Upon hearing this, the kids replied with a "yes." After the kids went to bed, I got thirsty and went to the kitchen for some water. Sissy was there alone, so I cautiously spoke. "I've told the kids to keep the noise down in the room. We won't be here long, but we'll try not to bother you. Sorry for any inconvenience." Then Sissy looked at me and said, "I don't mind the kids being noisy. They're just children after all. What bothers me is you acting all nice. Just because you have kids and a husband doesn't give you the right to look down on me." She then walked past me and went upstairs. I stood there dumbfounded, unable to believe what I'd just heard. I never intended to look down on Sissy or act like a goody two-shoes. I was just trying to make both our lives a bit more comfortable. It really bothered me when she reacted the way she did. I thought about telling Robert, but it didn't seem like a great idea to start off our new living situation with a complaint. So I kept quiet. However, Sissy continued to treat me poorly the following days. Thankfully, she wasn't mean to the kids, but she always found a way to nitpick or make snide remarks at me. It was tough. I love her cooking as much as the next person, but I figured it must be hard for her to cook every day, so I also cooked sometimes. And whenever I did, Sissy would complain. "The soup tastes a bit bland today, needs more flavor," she'd say, making a show of heading to the kitchen for seasoning. "This is overcooked to the point it's losing its shape. It's not food for the elderly, you know," she would complain, leaving food on her plate, bit by bit chipping away at my morale. I'd laugh it off each time, saying, "Sorry, I guess I can't compare to Macy's culinary skills." Both the kids and my husband would laugh when they heard this. I didn't want to make a big deal out of it, but it was getting to me. I never thought moving into my in-laws' house would be so emotionally draining. I couldn't bring myself to talk to my husband about it, but one day I gathered the courage to confide in Macy. "Macy, do you think Sissy doesn't like me?" Hearing this, Macy looked surprised. Why would you say that? Of course she doesn't hate you. Well, ever since we moved in, she's been leaving the food I make, complaining that it's bland. It hurts, you know. Smiling warmly, Macy said, "Don't worry about it. Sissy's always been difficult and hardly straightforward. She often says the opposite of what she's thinking. Plus, it's been a while since she talked to someone her age. I think she just wants to chat. Don't take it to heart," she said, patting my shoulder before heading out to the garden. I could only let out a deep sigh. Macy probably just said that to appease me. She seemed to struggle with Sissy too. Maybe Macy was glad Sissy's complaints were directed at me and not at her. At that moment, I knew I couldn't keep living with her. Not like this. That night, I was cleaning up the dishes when Sissy walked into the kitchen, leaving us alone. I avoided eye contact as best I could, but Sissy just had to make a snide comment. "You told Mom, didn't you, that you can't stand me?" I turned to Sissy, waving my hands in denial. "I didn't say that. I thought if I talked to Macy about it, we could find a way to get along better. I feel like I've been making you uncomfortable." "Oh, playing the victim, huh? That's what irritates me about you. You wish I'd just go away, don't you?" "That's not what I'm thinking. Sissy, let me wash that glass for you." As I reached for Sissy's glass, she snapped, "Stop it!" and knocked my hand away. "You're so annoying, trying to act like the good one here." With that, Sissy stormed out of the kitchen. I didn't know what to do anymore. Tears started to roll down my cheeks. Seeing that I hadn't returned, Robert came looking for me. Upon seeing my red eyes, he quickly embraced me. "Hey, what's going on? Something happened?" I hesitated, torn whether to tell Robert or not, but my tears kept falling. Robert took me to our room and rubbed my back until I calmed down. I couldn't hold back any longer. I spilled everything about how Sissy had been treating me and how much it hurt. Robert listened to the very end. When I finished, Robert spoke gently. "I'm really sorry about Sissy, but you should have talked to me sooner. We're a couple. Don't keep things to yourself." I didn't want to make Robert feel bad or worried, but hearing him say that made me feel glad I had told him. Robert was furious, unable to forgive Sissy. Already having issues with her, his disdain for Sissy grew even more for hurting me. Robert proposed a plan. Given that he was in charge of our parents' relocation, he suggested using that as leverage to teach Sissy a lesson. I was concerned, asking him, "Is that really okay?" But Robert was absolutely confident. The day of reckoning was also the day we'd move in to our new home. Robert had told me to steer clear of Sissy as much as possible until then. So I did just that, avoiding Sissy whenever I could. Sure, she had complaints, but I chose to ignore them. Perhaps finding it less entertaining to not get a rise out of me, Sissy started to stay in her room even more. Frankly, it worked to our advantage. While Sissy kept to her room, Robert and I arranged a new living situation for his parents. We researched and suggested an ideal nursing home for them. This place had certified caregiving staff on hand, and it offered private spaces where they could live normally but get immediate help if needed. When Robert explained to his parents that they could continue to live as they always had, they were thrilled, having had no idea such options even existed. When Robert asked if he should proceed with the paperwork, his parents happily left it to us, so the preparations went smoothly. Meanwhile, our new home was nearly complete. Finally, the moving day arrived. Both our families made steady progress in our moving preparations until the movers arrived. "It's time to say goodbye to this house. I'll miss it, but I'm excited for our new lives," Macy said, watching Darren and the movers load up their belongings. Even the kids were excited, running around the yard as they watched the movers pack their stuff. The hustle and bustle inside prompted Sissy to finally emerge from her room. "What's going on? Wait, we're moving?" She was clearly clueless. Robert and I exchanged a knowing smile. Sissy then went over to her parents. "Hey, you should have told me it was going to get noisy with the movers. Robert and his family are leaving today." Hearing this, Macy responded, "Not just Robert's family, dear. We're moving too." Sissy's eyes widened in shock. "What? I didn't know about this. Am I going to be the only one left in this house? Why?" She was visibly panicking, and understandably so. Losing the support of her parents would be a big problem for Sissy, who was both antisocial and unemployed. We did tell you, from outside your room. If you didn't hear, that's on you. Usually, the quiet Darren calmly broke the news to Sissy. Sissy shot Darren a glare. What? I didn't hear about this. Have the movers pack my stuff too. Pack your stuff? Where are you planning on going? Macy asked Sissy with a confused look on her face. Sissy, visibly puzzled, retorted, Huh? To the house where Mom and Dad are moving, of course. We live together, so obviously I'm moving too. What are you talking about? Darren once again calmly shared the reality. We're moving to an assisted living facility. It's not a place for you. At this, Sissy raised her voice. What do you mean? I don't get it! She began to shout angrily. Robert and I couldn't help but smirk. Sissy then turned to us. Hey, let me live at your place. It's a new house, right? If you can afford to build in the countryside, there must be plenty of room, she said. Shocked at her audacity, Robert coldly responded, I can't live with someone who hurts my wife. I have no obligation to share a home with Sissy. No way. Upon hearing this, Sissy shot me a glare. Ah, so you went and played the victim to Robert and made me out to be the bad guy? How annoying! Why is it always me who has to suffer? Sissy was making a scene. Robert then dropped another truth bomb. Also, unfortunately, there's no point in keeping this house when my parents are moving into assisted living. We've decided to sell it to support them. So, Sissy, start packing up. Upon hearing this, Sissy was dumbfounded and muttered, What does this mean? Just then, Macy and Darren joined us. Sissy clung to her in-laws, crying. Why are you leaving me behind? Why do I have to leave? Darren and Macy sighed in disbelief. We can't continue to care for someone who stays cooped up all day, vents her frustrations at Mom, and then takes it out on Liza when she arrives. You need to figure things out for yourself. You're an adult. Stop being a burden on your brother. Darren addressed Sissy. Darren's usually calm voice was tinged with anger. Yes, Robert had talked to his parents about Sissy. They too seemed exasperated with how to deal with her. And when they learned that I was on the receiving end of Sissy's outbursts, Darren was pretty livid. Macy felt terrible for brushing off my concerns and even cried about it. They decided Sissy should start living on her own, which led to this current plan. Sissy broke into tears at Darren's words, shouting, This doesn't make any sense! In the midst of this awkward atmosphere, the movers worked efficiently to get us ready for our new lives. My in-laws headed for the retirement home, and we went off to our new home. Sissy, left behind, had to scramble to find a cheap apartment to move into before the house was sold a week later. Since Sissy was unemployed, she was now forced to live on her own, which in a way kick-started her re-entry into society. It seemed like that was my in-laws' goal all along. Robert looked quite pleased with having given his sister a reality check. I felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. Now we've moved into the home of our dreams and are starting a new chapter in our lives.
Women over 40 are no longer needed.
When I got home, Robert said this to me with a sleazy grin. I quickly agreed to divorce him, but I'm not letting it end like this. I'll make sure he regrets this, right? My name is Emma, and I'm 44 years old. I have been married to Robert, who's 2 years older than me, for 20 years now. Even after getting married, I have continuously worked at the same place, and now I'm in a respectable position. With a family, why did I devote myself so much to work? The main reason is that we don't have kids. It's not that we didn't want them, we just couldn't have them. There were times I was down about it, but I had a fulfilling job. That's why we were able to continue our life as a couple without breaking down. However, recently, I have immersed myself in work because we don't have children. I don't mind working late or staying overnight. Why? Our marital relationship has gone cold, and I don't want to be home. Robert's in sales, so he's been using work as an excuse to be away more often. He often comes home in the early hours. Because of this, Robert and I no longer have the conversations or physical intimacy we used to. If someone said we were getting old, I would understand. But with Robert, his attitude has clearly changed. It happened just the other day. When I got back from working late, there were scattered food wrappers on the table. I hate it when trash is left out, so I pointed it out to Robert, who was lying down watching TV. Robert, I always tell you to clean up after you eat, don't I?
Yeah.
It's not just yeah. You always say that, but never do it.
Yeah.
Are you even listening? You're not really responding.
Yeah. This comedian is so hilarious.
Fine, I'm tired. I'm going to bed. Good night. He completely ignored my good night. He used to always greet me, no matter how busy he was. I wonder what made him become so distant. Trying to talk to him only resulted in empty responses. It never felt like a real conversation. Living this Cold War with Robert, it's like we're just roommates now. Is there any meaning left in being with him? Sometimes I feel so down. Maybe I'm reaching my breaking point. Then, on one particular day, I surprisingly finished work on time without any overtime. I thought, maybe I can have dinner with Robert for once. So I went shopping and headed home. As I was cooking his favorite beef stew, Robert came home just in time. I greeted him with "Welcome home," but there was no response. His attitude frustrated me. But it's scary how you can get used to such things. I tried to shift my mood and spoke to him again. "I made your favorite beef stew tonight. Let's eat while it's hot."
Mm-hmm.
Can I serve it on a plate now? I also bought some baguette.
Yeah.
It'll be ready soon, so maybe take off your suit.
No, I don't want any.
Excuse me?
I ate out today.
Why wouldn't he say that from the start? If he ate outside, he should have informed me earlier. As I was fuming over his ambiguous answers, Robert broke the silence.
I think this is a good time. I have something to tell you.
Tell me, now isn't the time.
I want a divorce.
What? The sudden divorce request left me frozen, still holding the pot. In response to my silence, he said again,
I said divorce. Didn't you hear?
I heard you, but are you serious?
Of course, I am. Who jokes about things like this?
I get it, but
fortunately, we don't have any kids. At this rate, I don't know what will become of my life. Being with you will just lead to a dull ending, right? I can't stand that idea.
Hey, what do you mean by that? Even you, Robert? Before I could vent my frustration, he cut me off.
To be honest, I don't need a woman past her 40s anymore.
What?
I said I don't need her, meaning she's useless and I don't want her around.
Are you serious? Who does he think he is? I might be past 40, but Robert's over 45 himself. In my growing anger, Robert smirked and said,
Anyway, I want a divorce from you. I plan to have a much more fun life from here on. You are just not part of that picture.
I had forgiven Robert's attitude countless times before. I genuinely believed that we got married out of love. But enough is enough. If he's going to say such things, I'll gladly get rid of this trash. With a smug look on his face, I firmly told him, Well then, that's great. I'll leave right now.
Wait, what?
Seeing my prompt agreement, Robert was taken aback. I'll start packing right away.
Wait, Emma, why are you being so casual about this?
Why not? A divorce wouldn't bother me.
Huh?
There's absolutely no downside for me in getting a divorce.
That can't be true. Are you okay with people knowing you have been divorced?
Watching him get desperate, I couldn't help but chuckle.
What's so funny?
Just that I don't care what others think.
You don't care what others think, Emma?
After the divorce, I won't have to deal with you and your issues. No daily frustrations. We don't have kids or live with our parents, and I work too. So life won't be hard, right?
But
Seemingly upset that I so easily accepted the idea of divorce, Robert frowned. I had one more thing to tell him. Plus, why wouldn't I want a divorce when I could get compensation?
What? Compensation? What are you talking about, Emma?
Am I saying something odd?
Just so you know, women don't just get compensation money because they're women.
I know that. Compensation isn't about being male or female. I am not that naive.
Then why?
This guy doesn't seem to realize it yet, that I have already spent a lot of money to uncover the truth. I smiled at him and said, well, I'll be back for the rest of my stuff.
Huh? Wait!
Oh, we can discuss the division of assets later, okay?
No, listen.
Don't worry, there's a motel near your office, and I'm thinking of moving into the apartment the company provides. So bye! Leaving those words behind, I immediately left the house. Robert looked unhappy, but I didn't care anymore. The best punishment is awaiting him after all. Later, I contacted my lawyer to process the compensation. A few days passed. Finishing work on time, I headed to Robert's house to pick up the remaining items. He arrived just as I did. The moment he saw me, he approached me angrily.
Hey, Emma, what's going on?
What? Keep your voice down.
You're the one who's ignoring my calls. I called many times and even sent you WhatsApp messages.
Why would I need to hear from someone I'm divorcing?
Emma, how can you say that?
With a smirk, I pointed out, oh, maybe you're wondering how I found out about your affair?
You knew?
Of course. We have been married for 20 years. If you weren't going to say anything, I was thinking of divorcing you soon.
That's why you hired a lawyer so quickly? Who do you think you are?
Isn't it obvious? It's for the compensation. I have to get what's due to me. To that, Robert unexpectedly said,
I'll pay the compensation.
Really? You're more reasonable than I thought. With a sly grin, he confidently said,
You knew about my affair, but did you know she's a wealthy heiress?
I've heard something like that.
So paying you is no big deal for me. No harm done. And hiring that fancy lawyer of yours must have been tough, huh?
Interesting. From the way you speak, it seems you don't regret cheating at all.
Of course not. I just followed my desire. We have been together for 20 years. You should be thankful.
That was the moment I decided to take him down a notch. Had he shown genuine remorse or apologized even once, I might have reconsidered, but clearly, he has no intention to. Well, I have some thoughts too. Well, I understand your feelings now. I'll submit the divorce papers tomorrow.
Great. I'll go to the bank tomorrow and transfer the compensation, $30,000, as your lawyer specified, okay?
All right, go ahead with that. And so our divorce was finalized. Being single again, I felt an immense sense of relief and freedom. I wished I had divorced him sooner. That's how liberated I felt. Once life had settled down, I decided to visit Betty, the woman Robert has been having an affair with. I found her address through a detective agency. Betty hailed from one of the town's prestigious families that had owned vast lands for generations. She, too, would eventually inherit a large portion of these lands. Perhaps she had already been informed by her lawyer, for when I met her, she immediately apologized. I'm so sorry for what happened. I shouldn't have. It's all right. I didn't mean to barge in on you, but I need to know. Was it true about you and Robert? Yes, but I didn't know. What? I didn't know Robert was married. He told me he had been divorced and had no kids. Betty, Robert's affair partner, had apparently been involved with him without knowing he was still married. As she spoke, the true extent of Robert's deception became clearer. I know there was an age difference, but I truly loved Robert. I never imagined he was married. We are divorced now, so don't worry too much about it. But it's because of our relationship that... Yes, the affair played a part in my decision to divorce, but it wasn't just that. I lost all affection for him because of his character. I'm not trying to make excuses. I'm genuinely sorry. At the end, she said, looking straight at me, I'm going to start anew. 2 weeks later, just when I had almost forgotten about everything, Robert called, annoyed with his persistence. I reluctantly answered. He instantly raised his voice.
Hey, what the hell is going on?
I have no idea what you're talking about. Why did you call me out of the blue?
It's not out of the blue. I can't reach Betty anymore.
Why are you asking me? Sounds like your problem.
She suddenly blocked my calls and even blocked me on WhatsApp right after I broke up with you. The timing is just too perfect.
So you decided to contact me about it?
I bet you had something to do with it. What did you do to her?
Do? I just met and talked with her, that's all.
You met and talked with her?
Yes. Is there a problem with that? I explained the situation and he fell silent. That's probably why she decided to move off. Too bad for you, being dumped so easily.
What am I supposed to do now?
Do about what?
I was planning to marry Betty and inherit her family's wealth. I even quit my job thinking I wouldn't need to work anymore.
You quit your job?
Seriously? Of course. Why work when you're married to someone that wealthy? Everything was going according to my perfect plan, and now because of you, what a terrible woman you are.
Robert shouted at me over the phone, hurling insults like there was no tomorrow. Quitting his job just to be some mistress's sugar baby? I didn't think he was that foolish. Though I was disgusted, I decided to give him one last parting gift. You haven't changed a bit. Maybe you need another wake-up call.
What, Emma? What are you talking about?
I'll be reaching out to the husbands of the married woman you have been seeing behind Betty's back.
What?
You think I don't know? I'm fully aware of all your little escapades. It had come to light through a private investigator that Betty wasn't Robert's only affair. He had several others, both single and married women, totaling around 5. He met them at bars, clubs, and even dating apps. Being a former salesman, Robert had a knack for making connections in many places. But to think he was such a playboy? To the very end, he is beyond redemption. The fact I was once with a man like this gives me the creeps. So, expect compensation claims, not just from Betty, but from the other woman's spouses as well. Enjoy the mess you have created for yourself. Hearing this, Robert frantically responded,
Wait, why are you doing this?
Why? Did you seriously think a light punishment would be all you would get?
I
gave you a chance to reflect on your actions. You should be thanking me.
What kind of twisted logic is that? I've been regretful, you know.
Regretful? I couldn't hold back anymore. Do you realize how many people you have hurt because of your carelessness? Do you even understand the magnitude of your actions?
Calm down, Emma.
You lied, not just to married women, but also to single ones like Betty. What do you think marriage is, just a game? Are you out of your mind?
It's not like that.
What's different then? I have tolerated you for too long. I hope you're swamped with claims and suffer forever. Never show your face to me again, jerk.
Wait, Emma, listen.
Ignoring his desperate cries, I hung up and blocked all his contacts. That was the end of my ties with Robert. After that, he received compensation claims one after the other from the spouses of his mistresses. He ignored the payments, which eventually led to legal actions. Since he was at fault, he couldn't evade the charges. He had quit his job relying on Betty's wealth, so he didn't have a stable income. Rumor has it he borrowed money from various sources to pay the compensations, and now juggles multiple part-time jobs to pay back his debt. I don't pity him. He deserves the misery. As for me, I'm relishing my stress-free life. Working is as hectic as ever, but every day is rewarding and fulfilling. After looking after that hopeless man for 20 years, I believe a lot of good fortune awaits me.
Some say marriage is the end of the road, but not me. I'm 45 and single, but that's not why I'm avoiding the aisle. Life is fulfilling enough on my own, and I don't pine for a boyfriend. Still, at my brother's wedding, I did catch myself feeling envious of their happiness. His bride was rather charming too, but the woman I thought was amazing turned out to be a whole different kind of crazy. My name is Emmy, 45 years old. I'm a single woman living alone. I may have given up on marriage, but not on life itself. Work is going well. I have a solid circle of friends, and life is good, all things considered. One day, a married friend asked, "What's your plan for old age?" I've saved up quite a bit, so I'm planning to hire some help and retire on a sunny island, I said with a smile. You would, my friend replied, laughing. I've paid off my house, and I've been reevaluating things like insurance to prepare for my future. For now, I've got no worries. I have my mother and an older brother, Aiden, in my life. Dad passed away 5 years ago, but Mom is still going strong at 70. Aiden is happily married. They had their first child 5 years ago and welcomed their second last autumn. Both are boys. Aiden is pushing 47, but his wife Lindsay is younger and seems to have no issues with childbirth. And my mom, who used to nag about me getting married and giving her grandkids, has backed off, probably thanks to the grandchildren from Aiden's side. I guess she's just given up on me. Sorry, but I've chosen a career-focused life. I'd appreciate it if you'd just spoil my nieces and nephews. Mom and Aiden seem so happy. As for me, I'm living the dream on an island down south. Life is great, except for one little problem. Lindsay, my sister-in-law. Lindsay is 12 years younger than Aiden and 10 years younger than me. Despite that, her attitude towards me is downright unbelievable. It all began 3 years ago. When my brother and his wife had their first child, I gave them a baby gift. Instead of saying thank you, Lindsay had the audacity to say this. Think giving us a gift will set you up for the future, Emmy? What? What are you talking about? Confused, I replied. She snorted and continued. Don't play dumb. You're hoping to rely on our kid in the future, aren't you? No thanks. What? I was just puzzled. What was she getting at? Just to be clear, I didn't have this kid to take care of you in your old age, so don't expect anything. Right. All I did was give a baby gift, right? I didn't say anything like that. What was she going on about? Frustrated, I mentioned it to Aiden. He called Lindsay for a discussion. Lindsay, Emmy just gave us a baby gift, okay? I'd understand if you were thankful, but why did you lash out at her? She blushed with anger and retorted. Emmy wants to rely on our child for her future. She's just trying to save money on caregivers. No. I simply gave a baby gift because Aiden had a cute child. Aiden was livid. Enough. Emmy never said any of that. She just gave us a baby gift because she's happy for us. That's it. So you're taking her side because she's your sister? That's not fair. She glared at me. I got yelled at because of you, Emmy. How are you going to make it right? You owe me. What? Suddenly accused, I can't help but turn serious. I was planning to keep quiet, but being misunderstood like this will just cause more problems. Listen, Lindsay, just like Aiden said, I only gave the baby gift to celebrate. No ulterior motives. Don't lie. I have good instincts. Whatever you think, it's not true. I'm planning to live alone in a distant place when I'm older. I'll be fine. You'll say that now, but you'll manipulate our kid to take care of you later. I've no plans to rely on my nephew. Lindsay kept ranting like a mad dog. She was beyond reasoning. I decided I wanted nothing to do with her. However, a few days later, Lindsay called to apologize. It seemed both Aiden and her parents had scolded her, and she was behaving meekly. I'm truly sorry for what happened, Emmy. Maybe it's just postpartum stress. I can't speak from experience about childbirth, but it seems that some women may view everyone around them as a threat right after giving birth. Is it some kind of innate parental defensive mechanism? They can often overreact, causing inconvenience to those around them. I told her, it's okay. You must be tired too. Just be careful from now on, and chose to forgive her on the spot. I only meet up with my brother's family during New Year's holidays or special events at our parents' house, but keeping good relations doesn't hurt. After that, I gave gifts to my nephew on his birthday and Christmas. Despite maintaining this relationship, when Lindsay had her second child last fall and I gave her another baby gift, she snapped at me again. This time she said, "Emmy, don't you think now there are 2 people for you to take care of? You're not considering adopting one, are you?" "What do you mean?" "Don't ever think such nonsense. Both are my precious children and I will never give them to you." "No, I wasn't thinking that. Don't think giving a gift gives you any control. I will never give my children to you," she screamed at me. This was a replay of that stressful experience and it gave me a headache. Is she bringing up that old issue again? Just like last time, she complains to me about her own delusions without any gratitude. Of course, this time Aiden mediated again. "Hey, Lindsay, you're still saying that? You already caused Emmy enough trouble last time." Lindsay glared at Aiden. "Aiden, are you planning to ruin our children's lives by letting a single woman take care of them? That's disgraceful." "Come on. Emmy would never do that. Enough. Just be quiet." I left the arguing couple and hurried home. I don't want to get caught in such trouble every time she gives birth. I decided that if they have another child, I will give the baby gift when Lindsay is not around. A few days later, just like before, Lindsay called to apologize, but I had no intention of forgiving her. "In the end, you and I are like oil and water. We will never get along. Let's never meet again. Goodbye." I said this over the phone and hung up without waiting for her response. I'm a 45-year-old single woman. I know society doesn't look kindly on that, and I do worry about my future. That's why I'm preparing now, planning to live alone without bothering my family. I never thought about relying on my nephews. No matter how much I tell this to Lindsay, she won't believe me, so I decided to cut ties with her. When I visit my hometown, I coordinate with my mother to avoid meeting my brother and Lindsay. I also stopped giving Christmas and birthday gifts to my nephews. Well, they are young and will probably forget about me soon enough. I was looking forward to seeing my nephews grow up, but the thought of them becoming more and more like Lindsay makes me not want to see them. During the New Year's holiday, while I was relaxing and watching TV, I got a call from Lindsay. Shoot, I forgot to block her number. Reluctantly, I answer the phone. "Hello? Oh, Emmy, long time no see. I thought you might be dead since you didn't come home for the holidays," Lindsay says, sarcastically as ever. "Happy New Year, Lindsay. I'm fine, so don't worry. Goodbye." I was really annoyed that she picked a fight right at the start of the year, so I hung up, not wanting to deal with her any longer. But as I was trying to block her number, she calls again. "You hang up on me? Really, Emmy, you're so impatient. That's probably why you're not married." None of her business. "I just want to relax and watch TV. I'm busy, so I'm hanging up," I reply, brushing her off. "Why are you being so cold? I married your brother, you know. I'm family. You should treat family with respect," she says, suddenly sounding righteous. "What are you talking about?" Ignoring me, Lindsay starts spouting nonsense. "You know what family relationships mean, right? Especially at your age. You should understand their importance." Huh? What is she even trying to say? I thought about hanging up, but I hold back, thinking she might just show up at my house. "So, what do you want?" "You're my children's only aunt, Emmy. You have responsibilities." "Responsibilities? Like what?" "Seriously? I'm talking about gifts for birthdays, Christmas, and graduations. That's what family relationships are about." "Really? After telling me not to spoil them with money, now she's like this? So what you're saying is because I'm single and have some savings, I should spend it on my nephew?" "Exactly. Your money will be happier too." "I can't afford to waste money. I need to save for my future, and I don't plan on relying on your children when I'm older." "Wasting money on family isn't a waste at all." "Yes, it is." She kept talking as if she hadn't heard me. By the way, my son's birthday is coming up. He'd love the latest gaming console. I'd enjoy it too. I've told you I can't waste money. But money spent on a cute nephew isn't a waste. What's the point of saving for old age? You're likely to die alone before that. Can anyone this unreasonable really exist? Why did my brother Aiden marry her? You've been taking advantage of my goodwill all this time, and now you suddenly claim it's as your aunt? Give me a break. Finally, I snapped. I can't hold it in anymore. Even though I'm already livid, an idea crossed my mind. So you really want a free gift, huh? Fine, you can have one, I said coolly. You really are the best aunt ever, Emmy. She eagerly sang my praises. So what kind of gift are you giving me? I'm thinking about the latest gaming console or maybe even a trip abroad. I'm ready. I've set the trap. I smirked to myself. The gift is the exclusive right to take care of my mom. How's that for a surprise? Wait, what? Her voice goes rigid. Ignoring her surprise, I continue. You know, my mom hasn't been doing well lately. She needs help, and I was supposed to do it. But I thought, hey, you can do it, and your kids get to spend quality time with their grandmother. What more could you want? Just when I thought I'd outwitted her, the voice on the other end changes. Don't be ridiculous. That's a single woman's job. Don't expect us to do it. It's Aiden, and he's furious. He must have been listening all along. I hadn't been in touch with Aiden for a while, trying to cut ties with Lindsay. Little did I know she'd already roped him in. You can't hurt Lindsay like this. I panic at Aiden's sudden outburst. Sadly, Aiden has now become an adversary. I have no other choice. Then it's done. I'm cutting ties with you too, Aiden. I'll tell Mom. You don't have to do anything. Hearing this, Aiden panics. Wait, we don't have to go that far. Mom wants to see her grandchildren, and I'm sure you want to see your little nephews. I've made up my mind. As of now, you and your family are strangers to me. Goodbye. I hang up. My mom, furious about what transpired, disowns my brother and his wife. They disappear from our lives. 5 years later, my mother passed away after a long battle with illness. Thank you for everything, she says, holding my hand on her deathbed. I'm so glad you're my daughter. I was drowning in grief, but as the person responsible for the funeral, I had to hold it together for my mom's sake. With great effort, I managed to pull myself up. The day of the funeral, with the help of relatives, we smoothly concluded the ceremony. Just then, a man in worn-out mourning clothes approached me. It's been a while. How have you been? It was Aiden. I had no idea where he'd been during the ceremony, but he was there with my 2 nephews. My nephews were engrossed in their mobile games, not even bothering to look my way. Thanks for asking. You don't look too great yourself. I know. We're estranged, but can we talk? Reluctantly, I agree. It's about Lindsay. What happened to her? Did she cheat? If only that were all. What then? She attacked the wife of the guy she was cheating with. That sounds like something Lindsay would do. Aiden continues. The woman my wife cheated with is blackmailing me. She said she won't go to the police if I pay her off, and now she's demanding a ridiculous $100,000. Because of Lindsay's affair, I'm broke. I want to pay, but I can't. So here's what I really wanted to talk about. He looks up at me with a desperate gaze. Don't even think about the inheritance. What? You're only here for Mom's inheritance, aren't you? Mom always said she wouldn't leave a dime to you two, especially since you never visited her, not even during her hospital stays. That's why I've had the property and savings put in my name. The rest of the family is on board with this too. Aiden said, I'm really sorry. Just save it. Lend me $100,000. Help me out. I'm desperate. During the funeral service, with other relatives present, Aiden expressed deep remorse. Too little, too late. All because you chose to listen to Lindsay over me and our parents. It's too late, I told Aiden and left the room. I have no grudges against my playful nephews and nieces, though. 3 years have passed since then. I haven't seen my brother and his wife. I heard from a relative that Aiden blamed Lindsay for her infidelity and ran off, leaving her to deal with the kids and the damages. She's supposedly working part-time at supermarkets and grocery stores from morning to night. After leaving the kids at her parents' home, my own brother, mistreated by Lindsay, cheated on, and then abandoned. He got what was coming to him. He left me with no choice but to turn my back. As for me, I've started a peaceful life on an island down south. Just before entering my golden years, I can see a splendid palm tree right outside my condo. No complicated relationships here, only the crystal clear blue sky and the endless beautiful sea. I plan on living on my pension in this affordable country. Next year, I'm hiring a live-in helper to take care of my chores. Sometimes I do think it would be nice to have someone by my side, especially remembering the painful times, like my feud with Aiden and my mother's sad passing. Even so, I continue to savor my peaceful island life all alone, day by day.
I know there are people who's been cheated on and got hurt from discovering that their partner wasn't loyal. But I believe my case is even worse. And that's because my husband was upfront that he was going to cheat before he even had an affair. Allow me to cheat just for a night, since my ex-girlfriend asked me to spend the night with her. That's what he said. When I responded with, fine, he was thrilled. Thanks! Honesty is indeed the best policy when married. Well, just as my husband said, honesty is the best policy. So I decided to live my life honestly too, just like him. Whatever happens to him, it's not my business anymore. I am Catherine. My boyfriend, whom we'll call Bob, is pretty blunt and can't lie. Plus, he can't refuse anyone when asked a favor, so he's always happy to help out others. That's also what I loved about him. I thought that if I married him, we could be a couple that trusted each other and kept no secrets, which is why I decided to get married to him. One weekend, Bob solemnly said to me, Catherine, you fell in love with my honest nature, right? Yes, that and your inability to refuse a favor, your good-natured personality. Then Bob slowly pulled out a receipt from his wallet. I wanted to be honest with you, Catherine. I went here after work yesterday. The receipt Bob showed me was from a strip club in Manhattan. The total bill, $1,000? My client insisted on going there, so I couldn't refuse. My boss left me and went home first, so I had no choice but to pay. This is a business expense, right? That's the problem. My company doesn't encourage going out with clients. Then you should have refused to go with them. Catherine, you know I can't say no if someone asks me, right? Other guys hide stuff like this from their wives, even when things like this happen. But I want to be always honest. Catherine, that's what you want too, right? Well, it's better than finding it out later. Exactly. I knew you'd say that, Catherine. Pleased with my reaction, Bob began to shop frequently and spent lavishly. Every time, he showed me a receipt and report his spending. Catherine, I saw the wallet I had been eyeing at a mall yesterday, so I went ahead and bought it. What, $500? You already have a wallet. Plus, that's of a high-end brand. I was just looking from outside the store window at first, but one of the staff noticed and lured me inside. They really pushed me to buy it, so I did. You can't spend so much, just out of impulse. But you know I can't refuse when I get offered things. Right, Catherine? And then, the next day. Catherine, this is from yesterday's night out. Huh? Isn't that quite a lot? Actually, I ended up covering for my colleagues. What do you mean? When I invited them out, they said they were broke until their next paycheck. I couldn't just let them starve, could I? But still, we're also waiting for our paycheck, you know? We both work, and you have savings too, right? You know I can't say no when people rely on me. I can't say no when people rely on me. Bob emphasized that over and over, acting as though being honest meant he could do whatever. On another day, he came to me with a troubled expression. Catherine, is it okay if I go out this weekend? Sure. What's up? Actually, my ex-girlfriend called me saying she's going through a tough time and wanted to talk about it. What? Are you going to meet her alone? Yeah. She said it's something personal. Your ex-girlfriend. The one you showed me on social media the other day, right? Her name was Alice? That's right. She was married too, wasn't she? Don't you think it's strange for her to want to meet with someone who's married too? What, do you not trust me? If I had something to hide, I wouldn't be telling you honestly like this, would I? But don't worry. Besides, I already agreed on seeing her. What? Without even asking me? She came to me for help. How could I say no? Do you think I could ever do that? Fine. Even when meeting his ex-girlfriend Alice, Bob would tell me about it up front. I knew about Alice from before, but I was anxious about letting Bob see her, considering the fact that he can't say no when asked for a favor. And sure enough, my worries came true. Late that night, I got a text from Bob. Catherine, sorry. I only got the chance to text you now. Gosh, I was so worried about you. So, when are you coming home? You'll make the last train, right? Well, it seems I won't be able to come home tonight. You can't come home? Why? Alice, she seems troubled about her husband. She doesn't want to go home tonight. She said she's told her husband that she's staying at her friend's place. I'm a little confused. So you mean she wanted to spend the night with you from the very beginning? Yeah, I guess so. She just wanted to see me today and share her thoughts. She said she wanted to spend the night with me, just like old times. Like old times? You mean when you two were dating? Isn't that cheating? But it's just for tonight, which is why I'm telling you up front. Huh? Whether it's just for a night or not, that's still cheating. But isn't it better than me being sneaky about it? I'm only saying it to you because I am sincere, Catherine. How dare you? She said I was the only one that could help her. When asked like that, I can't say no. You understand that, right? Please, just forgive me this one time. Bob was asking me to accept his cheating. How insensitive of him. As I was at a loss for words, I heard a female voice from the other end of the line that sounded like Alice. Hey, Bob, can you end the call already? Catherine, hold on for a bit. Bob hastily said to me, then started talking to Alice. He must have been in such a hurry that he forgot to put himself on mute. I could clearly hear the conversation between Bob and Alice. Bob, can you really convince your wife? Yeah, just give me another second. She knows that I can't turn down people when asked for help, and that's what she loves about me. So as long as I'm upfront about things, she'll let anything slide. She's an idiot. Really? Gosh. She's pretty dumb, huh? Right? Once I get her approval, I can do anything I want. I can meet you as much as I want, as long as I tell her beforehand. I made a wise choice of picking a dumb woman, so I can be open with my affairs. You have to thank me, you know? Bob, you're so cunning. Yeah, even with money, as long as I have some excuse, she'll let me splurge as much as I want. I'll get you some designer stuff next time. Really? Are you sure? Sure. I'll just say, a rookie begged for it and I couldn't turn him down, and she'll be fine with it. I love you, Bob. I love you too, Alice. Then go on. Convince your silly wife, quickly. Don't worry about it, I've got this. Holding the phone, my hand started trembling uncontrollably. This was Bob's true feelings. I have been fooled by him this whole time. As I realized this, my feelings for Bob faded away in an instant. Bob got back on the phone, unaware that I had heard it all. Sorry for keeping you waiting, Catherine. Alice said she doesn't want to go home tonight. That's fine. I was just thinking about how it's important to be honest with your partner in a relationship. You can do whatever you want, honey. Thanks, Catherine. I knew you'd understand, said Bob with a happy tone, before hanging up. Right after the call ended, I called someone else. After doing everything I had to do, I was finally able to go to sleep. Bob returned home in a good mood. Catherine, I'm back. Welcome back. I see you're in a good mood. Yeah, I was just appreciating how understanding you are. If I'd come home right away, I would have felt guilty towards Alice. But I hate lying to you, Catherine. That's why I think it was right to tell you the truth. It's important to always be honest about these things. Yes, indeed. Bob, will you continue to be honest with me forever? Of course. I could never lie or keep a secret from you, Catherine. I will tell you everything, honestly. No matter what happens. I hope you keep your words, baby. Just as I said that, the doorbell rang. It looks like he's here. At those words, Bob asked, "Who's here?" Without a word, I invited the visitor into our house. A man entered our living room and immediately shouted at Bob upon seeing him. "You're the one Alice is cheating on me with, aren't you?" Huh? What are you talking about? Right after Bob admitted that he was cheating on me, I texted Alice's husband. Your wife is having an affair with my husband. It seemed that Alice's husband had suspected something was off, and so he believed me without a doubt. And so, he requested to speak with my husband once, and I gave him our address. Bob was flustered as he glanced at Alice's husband and me. To him, Alice's husband said, "I heard from your wife that you were with Alice last night. What's going on? Catherine said that?" Bob seemed to finally grasp the situation. He started making excuses to Alice's husband. No, you've got it all wrong. It's a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. Yes. I was indeed with Alice last night, but it was just a casual hangout, like a reunion. Nothing inappropriate happened. Without missing a beat, I chimed in. Bob, have you forgotten what you said earlier? You promised to be honest, right? You told me yesterday it's just for one night. Please forgive my affair with Alice. Didn't you? Upon hearing my words, Alice's husband became even more irate. I knew it! She was cheating on me. Bob probably realized that he couldn't get away with this, and he finally admitted to having an affair. Alice's husband was fuming, demanding for compensation as Bob repeatedly apologized. In the end, Bob had no choice but to swallow whatever conditions the man had thrown at him. Once Alice's husband had a written promise for compensation, he finally left. As soon as we were alone, Bob turned on me. Why the hell did you tell Alice's husband? Because you said we should always be honest, remember? It's not fair if I'm the only one that knows about your affair. Bob couldn't argue with that and suddenly became quiet. Just because not everyone is as understanding as you, Catherine. Anyway, what's done is done. We need to figure out how to pay off this compensation now. At this rate, we'll never be able to pay it off while maintaining our current lifestyle. He really overcharged us. Well, you had no right to refuse, did you? And it wasn't a situation where we could negotiate the amount, right? But if it's you and me, we can surely overcome this. Catherine, can you take on more work? Why should I? There's a limit to how much we can cut back on living expenses, and my company forbids having side jobs. I think the only option is for you to take on another job to pay off our compensation. That's not what I mean. I'm asking, why do I have to pay for what you did? Well, aren't we a married couple? Aren't we supposed to team up and overcome this together? Don't make me laugh. Why do I have to clean up after your mess? I am the one who got cheated on here. But you approved of me having an affair, didn't you? So you're also responsible to pay compensation. That's ridiculous. If anything, I'm the one who should be demanding alimony. You can't demand alimony while you're married to me. Yes, I can, because I have no intention of staying married to you. What? Why not? Don't you understand? Why don't you reflect on your actions? You used our money because you can't say no to people, and then you cheated on me. Do you think I'll let everything slide just because you don't hide them from me? I am tired of being with an idiot like you. I handed Bob the divorce papers I had prepared. Let's get divorced. Our marriage is over. What? But we've been doing well so far. You're the only one who thinks that. I've been keeping up with your crap and lied about my feelings all this time. From now on, I'm going to be true to my feelings and live my own life. As you said, honesty is the best policy after all. My honest feelings right now are that I want to divorce you as soon as possible. That's it. Catherine, goodbye. Wishing you the best, Mr. Honest Cheater. My bags were already packed. I said everything I wanted to say, grabbed my bags, and left the house. This house will also eventually be subject to property division. For now, I just don't want to see Bob's face anymore. With all this evidence of his affair, I'm sure I'll be able to claim alimony without any problem. It might be nice to stay at a nice place somewhere for a few days while leisurely looking for a new home. Maybe Bob was at a loss for words, because he didn't say anything that day. The next day, as soon as I got to work, I got a call from Bob. Catherine, did you talk about me at your office too? After Bob declared that he was going to have an affair, it wasn't just Alice's husband that I reached out to. I had informed everyone about Bob's affair, his workplace, parents, and relatives, and even his friends. Yes, that's right. If you want to be so honest, it's best to let everyone else know the truth, not just me. At my words, he raised his voice more than ever before. Are you kidding me? There are things that you can and can't say, right? Oh, really? I had no idea you had such standards. So, telling me honestly that you're going to cheat on me, your wife, was a good thing to do by your standards, huh? Catherine, I was wrong. I am reflecting on my actions. Help me. I've been called to the executive office first thing in the morning, and they've decided to send me off to a remote area. Oh, wow. Really? With rumors of my affair circulating throughout the company, it doesn't look like I can work at the headquarters anymore. And I have to repay the damages on top of my salary plummeting. I can't make it without you. Well, you should have thought about my feelings more then. It's too late now. What the hell? I've even apologized to you already. You're partly to blame for me being sent to the countryside. You snitched on me, so I'm not paying you any damages. Oh wow. I thought you couldn't turn down people by nature. I am asking you to pay alimony, please. You can't turn me down, can you? It depends on the situation, you know. Well, your foolish double standard got you into this. Basically, you brought your own self down. Unfortunately, I won't withdraw my claim for damages. This is something you're legally obligated to pay. You can't avoid it. Fine. I won't ask you for anything anymore. So, you're going to pay me? We're splitting our savings in half for property settlement. So don't touch my share. I get it. I've done a lot of favors for my friends up to now. If I ask around a bit, I'm sure there'll be plenty who lend me money. I doubt that. You cheated on me. Do you really think your friends would want to lend you money to pay for alimony? I'm not going to go into that much detail. I'm just going to tell them that I need to borrow money because I'm in a tight spot. Even if you don't mention it, everyone already knows. Did you tell my friends too? Well, being honest is your policy, right? Stop joking now! I guess I have no choice but to ask my mom. Your mom, huh? Don't tell me. Yes, of course. I told your parents everything too. I finally understood that being honest isn't always easy. I was so busy informing your workplace, friends, and parents about your affair while you were out having fun with Alice. I'm screwed! It's all over now! I could hear Bob's despair from the other end of the phone. He was facing a future of living alone in the countryside, unable to rely on anyone, and spending his days repaying damages. All of this was the result of his own actions. He fooled around doing as he pleased, under his motto of being true to oneself. On the other hand, I met another man a few years later, and was now about to get remarried. My new partner is a person who isn't afraid of turning people down, and is always considerate of my feelings. It's the bare minimum, but now that I've broken up with Bob, I've finally realized the importance of having a partner that respects you. This time, it seems like I'll have a happy marriage.
I should have been brimming with happiness, finally owning the home of my dreams. But instead, I dread every upcoming weekend. Why? Because my husband's parents visit every single week, and I'm treated like a maid every time. Far from getting a break from the stress of work, I only grow more exhausted with each day off. I reached my limit and decided to invite my own parents over, hoping that it would deter my in-laws from visiting. But my husband lashed out at me, bellowing, "Don't you dare invite your parents. If you don't like to live here, you can get out." Well, fine, I'll leave. He'll be the one to regret it. My name is Emma. I've been married to Michael for 5 years. We were previously living in a rental, so we've been planning to buy our own house soon. Michael's parents got wind of this. "Oh, Emma, Michael told us about your plans. You're finally buying your own house, huh?" "Yes, that's right. If you need any help looking for places, just let us know. We're more than happy to help." "Ah, thank you. How about visiting some open houses soon?" I had plans on carefully selecting our new home with Michael, but my mother-in-law seems keen on being involved with every step of the property search. Just yesterday, she showed up unannounced with a brochure for a plot of land that's up for sale. "Emma, what do you think about this property? It's near the subway station and it's spacious enough for a duplex house." "A duplex house?" "Apparently, they're planning on moving in with us. That's why they've been sticking their noses in our property search." She's been constantly chiming in with suggestions like, "It would be better to live nearby the subway since it's a hassle to walk," or "It would be convenient to have a supermarket nearby." And here I thought she was just looking out for us, but all along she was just stating her own preferences, thinking that she'd be living there too. I immediately relayed this to Michael. "Michael, your mother came over this afternoon with a brochure for a plot of land that's for sale. It seems like she and your father want to live with us." Yeah, she did mention something like that." "What? You heard it from your mom? Why didn't you tell me such an important thing?" "I thought we could talk about it once it was more concrete. Do you object, Emma?" "Well, yes, because I was thinking that we'd be living, you and me. And besides, your mom and dad are still healthy, aren't they? I can't predict far into the future, but I think right now it would be best if we lived separately to maintain a good relationship.
I see. I understand how you feel, Emma.
Michael listened to my feelings and was able to convince his parents that we're not planning to live together right now. After hearing Michael's reasoning, it seems his parents finally gave in. I thanked him again for handling the situation so well. Thank you, Michael.
No problem, Emma. If you're against living with them, then we won't force it. Instead, let's have my folks visit our new home often after we move in.
Of course. After that, Michael and I found the perfect place and we were finally able to get our own home. Once we moved in, his parents came to visit our new home right away. Emma, congratulations on the move. What a nice house you have. It seemed that his mother was satisfied with our new home. Please feel free to visit any time. I told her this with a gentle feeling, and that day, the four of us shared a meal around the dinner table. The following weekend, I suggested to Michael that we go buy some decorations for the living room, but he seemed disappointed and told me,
can we postpone the shopping for another time?
Do you have plans for the weekend?
My folks said they wanted to come over.
What? They just visited last week.
Well, they seem to really like this house. You did say feel free to visit any time, right, Emma?
Well, yes, I did say that, but...
Could you make dinner and entertain them a bit?
After that, his parents started to visit our house every single week, and every time they visited, they became increasingly demanding. Emma, it's been so hot lately that I'm feeling a bit drained. Something light like noodles would be fine for lunch, but for dinner, I'd like something hearty like steak. Emma, do you know the new pastry shop near the station? It's all the talk around town, so I think it'd be perfect for dessert. Could you buy some? They would come over early in the morning, boss me around, not help with any household chores, and then leave. From the second visit onwards, they would even assume that it was okay to stay over. We're the type who enjoys a good breakfast, so could you have it ready for us first thing in the morning? The demands of my in-laws kept escalating. Between taking care of them, I barely had a chance to rest on weekends due to work fatigue, leaving me even more exhausted. I reached my breaking point and sincerely pleaded to my husband, Michael. Michael, I really want your mom and dad to stop staying over at our place every weekend.
We can't help it. They said they want to come.
Well, you could just refuse them. Between working on weekdays and caring for your parents from morning till night on weekends, I have no time to rest.
Think about it. If we were living with them, it'd be every day, not just the weekends. Your in-laws originally wanted to live with us, but because you were strongly against it, we prioritized your opinion and they gave up on moving in. You should tolerate them coming over on weekends.
Compared to living together, it might still be better. However, it was becoming unbearable to have this situation continue indefinitely. While I was troubled about what to do, I received a call from my mother. Oh, Emma, are you doing well? Sorry, Mom, I haven't been calling you. I'm managing somehow. Really? You sound down. Are you okay? Well, actually... I told my mother that I had been troubled by my mother-in-law's frequent visits since moving. Upon hearing this, my mother sounded concerned and said, That must be tough. I imagine you would be busily settling in after moving and buying necessary items, so I've been refraining from contacting you. Because my in-laws visit every weekend, I still hadn't invited my own mother to our new house. If I invite my mother, maybe my in-laws would refrain from coming over that weekend. That evening, I suggested this to Michael when he came home from work. Hey Michael, I want to invite my parents over this weekend. Is that okay? However, his response was unexpected.
No way, my parents already planned to come over this weekend.
But your parents have come over so many times already. My parents hadn't been over even once.
That's because your parents haven't said they wanted to come.
My mother has been considerate, waiting for us to settle down. She really wants to come.
Oh, really? Well then, invite your parents over when mine aren't coming. They've waited this long, they can wait a bit longer.
Don't you think it's strange to always prioritize your parents who are always over here? Can't your parents refrain next week?
You're my wife now. It's only natural that we prioritize my parents. Anyway, tell your parents that this weekend is not good.
I don't want to do that. You should just not invite your parents.
If I can't call my parents because of that, then your parents don't have to come to my house anymore either. Since they've given you to me, they are prepared to not be able to see your daughter, right?
Wait a minute, that's absurd. Why can't I invite my parents? Regardless of having a married daughter, isn't it natural for them to want to see their family? Despite Michael's stubborn refusal, I made this proposition to him. Okay, let's give up on this weekend. But from now on, let's try to invite each other's parents on a more regular basis, okay?
Ugh, that's exactly what I was trying to avoid. If you're going to suggest something that troublesome, we might as well not invite your parents at all. Let's end this conversation.
End? We haven't resolved anything yet. In my mind, I've already decided. I'm not going to let your parents come over. If you don't like it, you can leave. No matter what I said, Michael only thought about his parents. He never considered me nor my parents. His refusal to have a conversation and his insistence on his own opinions finally wore out my patience. Fine, if you feel that strongly, Michael, I'll leave, and it'll be too late for regrets. Regrets? Haha, what on earth would I regret if you're gone? Just remember this, I won't recognize any apologies. Don't come crawling back wanting to return. Leaving a loudly laughing Michael behind, I headed home. When I told my parents what had happened, they agreed with me that Michael's opinion was unreasonable. My father was particularly angry. A person who can't respect his family is fundamentally wrong. I'm disappointed in Michael. You should stay here and not return to that house. Those were his words to me. I knew I wasn't wrong. Feeling relieved, I made up my mind to pursue a divorce. A few months after leaving the house, I received a call from Michael. Hey, how much longer do you plan not to return? Have you forgotten what day it is this Saturday? He appealed to me in a panicked tone. Oh, right, it was the day we were supposed to invite your coworkers over to our new house. Yes, exactly. We've been planning it since we moved, remember? But won't your mother-in-law be coming that day? Why don't you tell your coworkers that my parents are visiting and refuse them? There's no way I can say that. Moreover, I have invited a new boss for my department that day. If I cancel now, it could affect my future at work. I don't care. You're the one who kicked me out, remember? Is this the time to be arguing? Stop sulking and come back already. We need to start preparing for everyone's arrival, or we won't make it in time. I'm not returning to that house. What? Are you okay with jeopardizing my job? I don't mind. I plan on leaving you. Leaving? Are you serious? Yes, I've been thinking about it since I left the house. My parents also agree with me. Your parents too? They're just as out of touch as you. Do what you want. I'll have my parents help with the preparation for inviting my coworkers. I don't need you anymore. You're going to regret this. That's my line. Goodbye. I hung up the phone abruptly. Right about now, Michael is probably frantically contacting his in-laws, preparing to invite colleagues from the office. Since his in-laws have done as they please so far, it would be good for them to taste some hardship for once. Then, during the problematic weekend, our home phone rang in the afternoon. When I picked it up, Michael, with a flustered voice, said, why is Emma answering the phone? I was calling my new boss's home. Why? Well, because it's my house, of course. Emma's house? Don't tell me, the new boss is Emma's father? Yes, my father used to work at Michael's company. He had been away from the main office for a few years as an advisor because a related company was launching a new business, but it was decided that he would return to the main office next month and become Michael's boss. I knew, of course, but I couldn't leak the internal announcement until the information embargo was lifted, and I kept silent even from Michael, my husband. I thought he would notice when he saw the boss's name in the internal announcement, but it seems he didn't check properly. Michael started to plead with me desperately. My mother has prepared expensive ingredients and good alcohol, but no one is coming. When I contacted my colleagues, they said there was a big fuss at the company because I refused to invite the new boss to my house. If the boss doesn't come, no one else will, they started saying. Emma, please convince your father to come to our house. Please persuade him to clear up everyone's misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? It's not a misunderstanding, it's a fact, right? Michael, you said don't ever invite my parents to our house, didn't you? I didn't know your father was my boss then. The situation is different now. Quite a convenient excuse. I've asked you many times if you wouldn't regret it, haven't I? Well, it's too late to regret now. You're responsible for cleaning up your own mess. I hung up the phone without waiting for Michael's response. I told my father about the phone call from him, but, of course, my father had no intention of going to that house. There's no need to go to the house of a man who disregards his important daughter and her family. My father was even more incensed. My father is scary when he gets angry. He was excited to buy expensive ingredients and alcohol for today, but I guess all their spending ended up being for nothing. The next day, Michael came to our house with a pale face. Emma, I'm sorry for everything I've done until now. Let's start over again. Please come back home. My father, instead of me, who was looking at him with a dumbfounded face, responded, Start over? Do you even understand what you've done? Michael, turning pale, prostrated himself before my father. Sir, I apologize for my actions. I am here today to apologize. You've ignored my daughter for months now, yet you've never once bothered to visit her. I didn't think you'd turn out to be so untrustworthy. No, that's not it. I've been busy at work. You're not so busy you have to work on the weekends, or so I've heard. Weekends, well... Michael stammered. Likely his mother was visiting him every weekend. Michael, who never did housework, would have given up if it weren't for her help. I'm sure his mother was also looking after him during the weekdays, taking advantage of my absence. My father, guessing this, sternly said, "Never mind. You seem to get along quite well with your parents. It seems like you two jumped into marriage before you were ready to be independent." "That's not true. I respect Emma's feelings and even rejected the idea of living with my parents." "You're still saying that? It's natural for a couple to decide whether to live with their parents. Yet, you kept harping on Emma for rejecting the idea and never listened to her after. How is that prioritizing Emma's feelings?" "Well, that's..." "And marriage means both families become relatives, yet you invited your parents to your home every weekend and told us absolutely don't come over. How dare you disregard Emma's family, us?" "I didn't know you were going to be my boss. If I'd known that, I would have invited you first before my parents." "That's exactly what I mean when I say you're self-centered. You don't get it at all. People like you shouldn't be in a leadership position. My department doesn't need someone as selfish as you." But sir..." "Silence! Get out of my house now! Don't ever show your face here again!" Afterward, my father advised his superiors to remove Michael from his department and reassign him to a regional branch. No one defended Michael, who was already known for his selfish behavior. Even his parents, who had doted on him, couldn't follow him to a remote region. Now they can only see him once a year, if at all. Meanwhile, I've been living comfortably at my parents' house after finalizing my divorce with Michael and focusing on my work. I work hard weekdays and spend weekends with the people who I love. When I think back to my past lifestyle when I was not able to live such a normal life, the free life I have now is comfortable and irresistible. From now on, I want to cherish my parents and live at my own pace.